All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling a big one, psychoanalysis. Have you ever had that feeling, that there's way more going on in your head than you're actually aware of? Well, you're not alone. Psychoanalysis is all about that idea, that there's this huge, hidden part of our minds, the unconscious, that's secretly pulling all the strings. Okay, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to explore that mysterious unconscious mind. Then we'll get to know the three characters inside all of us that are basically always fighting for control. After that, we'll look at the sneaky defense systems our minds use to cope. We'll also see how these ideas grew and changed after Freud, and we'll wrap it all up by asking, why are we still talking about this stuff today? Why is it so powerful and, so controversial? So, let's kick things off with the big one, the single most revolutionary idea in all of psychoanalysis. And trust me, it's an idea that really challenges our whole sense of who we are.
Yeah, this is the question, isn't it? It's the one Sigmund Freud, the guy who started it all, threw out there more than 100 years ago. And his answer? It was a hard no. And that simple answer, man, it just sent shockwaves through everything we thought we knew about psychology and culture.
So what is psychoanalysis really? Well, it's basically two things, a theory about the mind and a type of therapy. And at the absolute core of it all is that hidden world we talked about, the unconscious. The whole idea is that what's buried down there influences pretty much everything we do and think, whether we realize it or not. Okay, so if our mind has all these hidden depths, how in the world did Freud even begin to map it out? Well, he pictured it kind of like a stage, with a few key characters locked in this constant dramatic struggle. And this brings us right back to that iceberg image, the conscious mind. That's the little tip you see poking out of the water. It's everything you're aware of at this very moment. But the unconscious, whoa, that's the huge, massive part hidden underneath. And Freud believed that's where the real action is. It's this deep reservoir of buried desires and memories that are actually driving the ship, so to speak. So inside this whole framework, Freud described this constant battle, a clash between three distinct parts of our personality. First up, you've got the id. Just think of it as the impulsive little kid inside you. The id operates on what Freud called the pleasure principle. It wants what it wants, and it wants it now. It's all about our most basic, primal urges. Then you have the ego. The ego is the mediator, the realist. Its job is to take all those wild demands from the id and figure out how to satisfy them in a way that's, socially acceptable and won't completely mess up your life. And finally, there's the superego. This is your moral compass, your inner judge. It's basically all the rules and ideals of society that you've internalized. It's the part that often makes you feel guilty when you do something you think you shouldn't. So you've got this constant war going on inside, right? Between your impulses, reality, and your conscious. That's going to generate a lot of anxiety. So what happens? How does the mind even deal with that? Well, the ego, our mediator, doesn't just crumble under the pressure. Nope. It deploys this really clever security system. It uses these unconscious strategies called defense mechanisms, and their whole job is to shield us from thoughts and feelings that are just too painful or threatening. Now, here are a few of the most common ones, and I bet you'll recognize some of them from just everyday talk. It's also cool to note that these ideas were really fleshed out by Anna Freud, Sigmund's daughter, who became a super important psychoanalyst herself. Okay, so repression is like the big one. It's the foundation for all the others. Think of it like this. You take a really disturbing memory or a thought you can't handle, and you shove it down into the basement of your mind and lock the door. You're not consciously aware of it anymore, but trust me, it's still down there, rattling the chains. Denial's a little different. This isn't just about forgetting something. It's an active refusal to accept reality. It's when you look at a painful fact right in the face and just say, nope, that's not happening, because the truth is just too much to deal with. And then you've got projection. Ugh, this is a classic. It's when you take a feeling you have that you don't like, say you're really angry at someone, and instead of owning it, you convince yourself that they're angry at you. It's a really slick, unconscious trick the mind plays to avoid looking at our own uncomfortable feelings. But hold on, the story of psychoanalysis absolutely does not end with Freud. Not even close. His ideas were like a spark that lit a huge fire. And a lot of his followers, and even his critics, grabbed a piece of that fire and ran off in totally new directions with it. And you can really see how the ideas started to branch out here. So for Freud, the unconscious was a very personal thing. It was your vault of repressed stuff. But then his student, Carl Jung, came along and said, wait, there's more. He proposed a collective unconscious, this deeper layer that we all share, full of universal symbols and archetypes inherited from our ancestors. And then, way later, Jacques Lacan looked at it and said, it's not about urges, it's about language. He argued the unconscious is literally structured like a language. So the main takeaway here is that psychoanalysis isn't just one single thing. It really blossomed into this incredibly diverse field. Jung is the guy who gave us concepts you hear all the time now, like the hero's journey or the shadow self. And Lacan, he completely shifted the focus to how the language we grow up with actually builds our identity and even tells us what to desire. It just became this huge, fascinating landscape of different ideas. Okay, so after more than a century with all these different offshoots and ideas, why do we still talk about this stuff? Why does psychoanalysis still matter so much, and why does it still start so many arguments? Well, for one thing, its legacy is just huge. It didn't just change therapy, it totally changed how we understand culture. It gave us a whole new way to analyze movies, books, you name it. And it completely soaked into our everyday language. I mean, think about it. We say things like Freudian slip, or talk about someone's ego, or accuse them of being in denial. All of that comes directly from psychoanalysis. Its cultural footprint is absolutely massive.
But it has always been a lightning rod for criticism, and the critics have some big points. For starters, a lot of people say it's just not scientific. I mean, how do you prove or disprove the existence of the id? They also point to its super heavy focus on childhood and sex, saying it's just too narrow. And yeah, it's definitely been called out for reinforcing some pretty old-fashioned, traditional ideas about gender.
And yet, despite all the controversy, despite all the debates about whether it's real science or not, you just can't deny its incredible impact. It completely changed the way we talk about being human. It gave us a new language to try and understand the messy, complicated, amazing thing that is the human mind. Which brings us to our final question, and it's one for you to think about. After everything we've talked about, the conscious mind, the hidden unconscious, all those internal battles and secret defenses, who do you think is really in charge of your thoughts? Is it the you that you think you know? Or is it that hidden stranger living deep inside your own mind?